Hey everybody, it's That's Bats from arenatog.com, and I have a great 7-win wizard deck for you today that is a great starter budget deck, especially if you're low on wild cards. It features prowess, and it is a red-blue deck. Looking at the creatures, first we have Adeliz the Cinder Win. She's the heart of the deck with flying and haste, and whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, wizards you control get +1/+1, which stacks with prowess, which is really what makes the deck so strong. Next we have the 1-cost Soul-Scar Mage with prowess, and a very strong ability. We also have the Spellweaver Eternal that features prowess and afflict, so when it's blocked, your opponent still loses life. We also have the Nimble-Blade Khenra. It is a 1/3 prowess, but it is a non-wizard, which is important to remember because it does not stack with the Cinder Win bonus. However, running a couple of these can be smart because it has a high toughness, which makes it great for blocking creatures and not getting pinged off. Next, we have the Ghitu Lavarunner, a wizard without prowess, but can get haste as long as you have 2 instants or sorcery cards in your graveyard, which means this is great for some burst damage mid to late game. For non-creature cards, first we have Riddleform, which is a pseudo creature. It's technically an enchantment, but whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it becomes a 3/3 Sphinx creature with flying. This gives it some natural protection from removal, which makes it really great. It also has the added bonus of being able to scry if you have mana left over at the end of your opponent's turn. Our 2 main damage spells are Lightning Strike and Wizard's Lightning, both great damage spells. Wizard's Lightning may seem high priced, but it has the added benefit of only costing 1 red if you control a wizard. That makes it just as good as Lightning Bolt. Both of these damage spells add to prowess and Cinder Win's ability. Moving on to our helper spells, we have Opt, Warlord's Fury, and Cartouche of Knowledge. These are great cards because they all let you draw a card when you cast them, so it increases the cycle value of your deck. They also all add to prowess, which is also valuable. It's not uncommon to cycle through several of these cards on a single turn just to increase the prowess benefit of your creatures, so that way you can slam your opponent in the face for tons of damage. We should note that Warlord's Fury is a sorcery, which means you can't use it mid-combat, but it does give all your creatures first strike, which means either your opponent will have to choose to get out of their way or risk losing his creatures. The Cartouche of Knowledge has the benefit of giving your creature +1/+1 in flying, so it can go over the top of your opponent's blockers. Next, let's check out the lands. We have Sulfur Falls. This is the other rare card in the deck. It is a rare tap land. You should not substitute the uncommon tap land. If you have to substitute cards for this, you'd be better off substituting 2 mountains and 2 islands, and then simply add these when you get the chance. The uncommon tap lands are way too slow, but the Sulfur Falls themselves are great for the deck because they can bring home a game when you have to choose between blue and red mana. We also run 10 mountains and 8 islands, bringing us to a total of 22 lands. The deck does well with very few lands. In fact, some versions of the deck actually run off 20 lands. If you're going to do this, go ahead and cut a mountain and an island. That makes up the heart of the deck. These are the core cards. The deck is very powerful, does a lot of burst damage, and gets through very quickly. It's not uncommon to pull off a turn 5 or 6 victory on your opponent. If you don't quite have the wild cards required to make the deck, let's take a look at some of the substitutions you can make. First, you can use Enigma Drake. You should have at least 1 or 2 of these from your starter sets. We also have Siren Storm Tamer, which is a wizard with flying that benefits from the Cinder Win's +1/+1. It also has the added ability of being able to sacrifice it to protect one of your other creatures. We have the Burning Fist Minotaur, which is also a wizard, no prowess, but it does have first strike and the ability to discard a card and pump. The Pathmaker Initiate is another cheap wizard that makes one of your creatures unblockable. Lastly, we have both the Spellweaver and the Nimble-Blade. Because we only run 2 of each in the deck, you could technically use any extras you have for substitutions. Many players will value the Spellweaver over the Nimble-Blade because of the fact that the Spellweaver is a wizard while the Nimble-Blade is not. However, it becomes a meta-based decision based on if you're seeing a lot of ping damage. In terms of spell substitutes, we have Crash Through. It's similar to Warlord's Fury, except it gives your creatures trample instead of first strike. We have Unsummon, which can be a valuable tempo card. However, it does not let you draw a card, and that is a major drawback. Spell Pierce suffers from the same issue as Unsummon in that it doesn't let you draw a card. Also, it is unlikely that you'll be using Spell Pierce too frequently on your turn. That said, in specific situations, Spell Pierce can make a big difference. Finally, let's go ahead and take a look at some alternative considerations for the deck. These are cards that don't fit in particularly well, but again, in specific situations can be very helpful. I wouldn't necessarily recommend these cards, but again, if you're trying to fill slots in the deck until you get the wild cards to make what you need, these can be useful and can sometimes throw games your way. So first we have Hijack. Hijack essentially lets you remove a blocker and add extra damage to your assault to make a final push for victory. Insult to Injury lets you double the damage that you deal in a turn. This can be great if you have a couple of Wizard's Lightnings in your hand. Fanatical Firebrand is a cheap alternative creature that will let you get some early game damage, and late game can let you ping a creature or hit your opponent in the face, but has the major drawback of not being a wizard. In terms of draw, we have Hieroglyphic Illumination. It is a very expensive spell, unfortunately, but it does give you some draw. The cycling can also be useful. However, remember, cycling doesn't add to your prowess. Ideally, you'd want to use this to set up a nice block on your opponent's turn, and then we also have Chart a Course, which is a sorcery, meaning it can only be played on your turn. You would most likely use this before you attack to give the prowess boost, meaning you'll have to discard a card, but you might pull into something that can finish off the game. Again, this is a very strong deck with lots of burst damage. It is not uncommon for this deck in its final form to be able to pull off turn 5 victories. It is a great way to get ahead quickly in MTG Arena, especially if you're a free-to-play player. We'll put the deck list along with some useful links in the description for you. If you found this deck tech helpful, please give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. It really helps out a lot. You can also follow us on Twitch at That's Bats, and be sure to check out arenatog.com for more great deck lists like this one. We'll lead out with some sample gameplay for you.